Hello and welcome. In today's video, we're going to look at modulating the Matriarch stereo delay to achieve interesting delay effects. To begin, I'm going to turn sync on in the delay section, and then I'm going to go to the arpeggiator sequencer section and select the arpeggiator. I also have order selected as my direction and 1 octave selected, but those 2 settings are my preference, so feel free to set them however you'd like. Next, I'm going to hit play and hold and press a couple keys to generate an arpeggiator pattern. Now that I have an arpeggiator pattern I'm happy with, let's look at setting up the modulation. So to begin, I'm going to patch the gate out in the arpeggiator sequencer section to the sync in the modulation section. This is going to allow us to do 2 different things. The first is to sync the sample and hold output to the clock of the arpeggiator, and the second is to reset the modulation wave every single time a new note occurs in the arpeggiator. Next, I'm going to patch the sample and hold output into the top attenuator in the left utilities section. This is going to allow us to control the strength of the sample and hold output as we feed it elsewhere. Next, I'm going to patch from that attenuator output into the mult in the right utilities section. This is going to allow us to create multiple copies of that same modulation signal. I'm going to feed the first copy from the mult into the time 1 in the stereo delay. Next, I'm going to patch another copy from my mult into the attenuator just below it. This time, I'm actually going to use this control to invert my signal so that every time my original sample and hold signal goes upwards, this copy of that signal will go downwards. I'm going to feed the output from that attenuator into time 2 in. So with this patching setup, every single time that our sample and hold modulates the time of delay 1, it's going to do the opposite modulation to the time of delay 2. This will create an interesting effect when using it in stereo. So let's listen to how that sounds. As you can hear, we're getting some interesting results, but let's look at ways to add a little bit more depth to the modulation occurring in the delay. To do this, I'm going to use the LFO from the utility section on the right side. I'm going to patch the triangle wave output from the LFO to the mix in on the stereo delay, and I'm also going to patch the square output to the feedback CV in. This is going to make it so that as the LFO moves through its cycle, it's going to increase both the feedback of the delay and the amount of the delay that we hear. And you can adjust the feedback knob and the mix knob to kind of dial in the range that you want to be hearing in the delay. So let's listen to how that sounds. As you can hear, adding modulation to the stereo delay section allows us to achieve some interesting non-traditional delay effects.